Superhero films are a dime a dozen these days. Starting out as humble comic books, their insane rise into modern day folklore has caused them to seep into all forms of popular media. At the time of writing, 4 of the top 10 highest grossing films of all time are superhero films. Everyone knows who Peter Parker is, knows Superman's weakness, knows who Tony Stark is, and everyone knows what happened to Bruce Wayne's parents. Because we've all seen it countless times. The genre is currently riding the highest it's ever been, but it wasn't always this way. In the 20th century, the superhero genre in film was in its mere infancy.
Clad in the somber costume which has struck terror to the heart of many a swaggering denizen of the underworld, Batman, who even now is pondering the plans of a new assault against the forces of crime.
Richard Donner's Superman in 1978 was the first big-budget superhero success in cinema. The film's critical and financial success proved to the industry that big-budget superhero films can work. But the question remained, were superhero films here to stay? Or was the Superman film simply a case of catching lightning in a bottle? The summer of 1989 proved that superheroes were here to stay in the film industry, with the release of Tim Burton's Batman. Without this film's massive financial success and mass public hysteria, superheroes in film would just not be where they are today. And with the latest superhero film, The Batman, right around the corner. I thought now would be an excellent time to explore the beginnings of the Batman franchise in cinema.
Who is this guy?
I don't know. Until we find out, keep a lid on it.
By the late 70s, Batman's popularity had begun to significantly decrease. The character had gone through a lot of change over the previous decades. With his brutal origins established in the late 30s, the character was initially ruthless and unforgiving, even using guns to defeat the criminals of Gotham. As the decades continued, however, the character began to soften. The introduction of Robin in the 40s saw Batman become more of a parental figure. By the 50s, Batman's stories became more fanciful and wacky, trading serial killers and criminal villains for aliens and robots. By the 60s, Batman's identity had completely shifted from his dark and brooding origins to a campy and wacky character thanks to the incredibly successful Batman television series. Starring the fantastic Adam West as Batman and Burt Ward as Robin, the show was a massive success for the character's popularity. Batman was now a household name. I'm sure you've seen moments from the show, such as the cartoonish superimposed sound effects, or heard its incredibly catchy theme song. Retroactively, the show is delightful. While severely formulaic, the show's campiness and wacky humour are a delight to watch in the 21st century. It's just so different to what we get now for the character.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
By season 3, the show's originality took a nosedive. The show's episodes were criticised for being too formulaic, and the show saw a significant drop in viewership, causing the show's cancellation in 1968, bringing us back to the 70s. Due to the TV show's massive popularity and significant drop-off, Batman had become too campy to be taken seriously, both by TV and film executives as well as the mainstream public. Enter Michael Uslan, the man who saw the potential for Batman to return to his dark, severe roots while being a financial success. Uslan was an avid fan of Batman and superhero comic books in general. His passion led him to create a college course on comic books titled The Comic Book in Society. The first of its kind, the course quickly received interest from the press. The first few classes were filmed by TV stations. It even caught the attention of comic book legend Stan Lee, who called Uslan personally.
I thought that was so great. At last, somebody was recognizing comics as a valid form of communication and entertainment. There are few colleges now that don't have popular culture courses, and so many of them concentrate a great deal on comic books, movies, television, the usual. But comic books are now lumped in with the others, so I think that's terrific.
This course became the springboard for Uslan's producing career. The vice president for DC Comics rang Uslan, telling him that they loved what he was doing for the comic book industry and were interested in working with him. Flown over to New York, Uslan met producer Benjamin Melnicker, explaining to him the idea for creating a dark and serious Batman film They together bought the motion picture rights for Batman from DC Comics in 1979, beginning a 10-year journey to bring Batman to the big screen. From there, Uslan began pitching the concept around the Hollywood studios. However, the influence of the 60s Batman series haunted Uslan and the Batman character. No matter who he pitched to, no studio could envision this dark and serious take being successful financially. However, the project finally reached some excellent fortune due to a major superhero film success, 1978's Superman. Due to Superman's success on the big screen, Warner Brothers, who owned the DC rights, knew that they shouldn't let the other characters be snatched away from them. With that in mind, Warner Brothers Studio accepted Uslan's pitch. The film was finally announced in 1983, with a budget of $20 million. Even though the Batman film finally had a home, there was still the issue of Batman's mainstream identity crisis. The mainstream still saw Batman as a flamboyant character.
Oh, better put 5 cents in the meter.
No policeman's going to give the Batmobile a ticket.
No matter, Robin. This money goes toward building better roads. We all must do our part.
Which was a noteworthy enough reason for Warner Brothers to delay the film and its gritty intentions. This campy perception would change in the mid to late 80s, when Batman would go through a drastic change in the comic books to return the character to his darker and gritty roots. 1986's Batman: The Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller redefined the character into an older vigilante coming out of retirement to reclaim Gotham City. This comic book run has shaped the character ever since its release. It has been a constant source of inspiration for future film, comic, and game adaptations, all the way up to 2016's Batman v Superman. 1987's Batman Year One was another best-selling title for the character, updating Batman's origin story and keeping him to the street level, emphasizing noir and realism. And finally, Alan Moore's Batman: The Killing Joke had a massive success for the character's darker image, with The Killing Joke being considered the greatest Batman story ever told. These significant successes for the character rekindled Warner Brothers' attention for a darker Batman story for the big screen, cementing their enthusiasm for the film. The next challenge became the story, proving difficult to nail down. The first writer attached to the project was Tom Mankiewicz, who completed a script called The Batman. This screenplay reportedly featured Batman and Robin with the Joker as the villain. This screenplay enticed several filmmakers, including Ivan Reitman, most famously known for directing the original Ghostbusters. Allegedly, Reitman wanted 2 well-known comedians to play the dynamic duo, Bill Murray as Batman and Eddie Murphy as Robin. This news is interesting to me. Uslan initially pitched the idea as a profound, dark interpretation that returned the character to its roots. Yet, they were considering hiring a comedic director and actors? It just doesn't make much sense, but also proves to be foreshadowing for the future casting of Batman. This idea seemed to have been a red flag to others within Warner Brothers, as this concept never saw the light of day. By 1985, the situation was becoming hopeless. Supposedly 9 rewrites were written by 9 separate writers, with the project now seemingly stuck in development hell. A director needed to come in and push the original concept in the right direction. The man Warner Brothers chose was undoubtedly a considerable risk, a young man in his mid-20s, Tim Burton. Warner Brothers chose Burton to helm the project after Pee-wee's Big Adventure's financial success, which Burton directed. Burton's first decision was to throw away Mankiewicz's script, feeling it was too campy. He then approached screenplay writer Sam Hamm, and together they worked on the new script. They stuck to the core concept of Uslan's original pitch throughout the process, taking Batman back to his dark, brooding roots. What intrigued them the most was exploring Batman's psychology, which had never been explored before on the big screen. This left them in an uncharted territory. No one had explored the depths of this character to this level on screen before. Once the story began to take shape, Burton and his team turned to casting for the film. Big Hollywood names were attached for the key role of Batman, including actors like Kevin Costner, Charlie Sheen, Tom Selleck, Harrison Ford, the previously mentioned Bill Murray, and Mel Gibson. Pierce Brosnan was even considered, but he turned the role down because he believed that the character couldn't be taken seriously. In the most famous story to come out of this film, the role finally went to comedic actor Michael Keaton. This casting was met with an uproar of anger from fans, even members of Warner Brothers. 50,000 protest letters from angry fans were sent to the offices of Warner Brothers, all calling for Keaton to be removed from the role. Even Uslan had his doubts.
At first I thought it was a joke, and I laughed and said, yeah, Mr. Mama's Batman, that's very funny. When they explained that everybody was serious about this, my instantaneous response was like every fanboy. I was shocked. I said, oh my God, this can't become a campy Batman again.
Burton convinced those in charge, and Keaton held on to the role.
It was kind of a shock to some people when we cast Michael Keaton, and I did hear filtering back from America that, oh my God, this is going to be this disaster. It's going to be like the TV show and blah, 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 blah. And they're just going to camp it up and do the. But, we knew that wasn't the case. I thought he was absolutely right for it.
The next role to cast was the villain of the film, the Joker. Tim Curry, John Lithgow, Robin Williams, and even David Bowie were considered. But the studio only had one man in mind. They wanted a premier movie star to elevate the project and show that the superhero films can be taken seriously. They wanted Jack Nicholson. All the way back in 1980, when Uslan was pitching the idea around to studios, he saw the famous shot of Jack Nicholson from The Shining in the New York Post.
Here's Johnny!
Inspired, he grabbed a marker and a pen and coloured the news article, transforming the actor into the Joker. He had been a popular choice for the role, and the studio was in doubt that he would even be interested in taking part. Fortunately, he was, and he accepted the role.
This was a very strong, in every way, transitional movie about the genre, and really why they wanted me in there. In other words, on a superficial level at that moment, it gave it, this is not just another cartoon movie.
And was compensated with an insanely attractive deal, earning $6 million as well as a cut of the film's earnings, earning him over time in excess of $50 million. Other casting included Billy D. Williams as Harvey Dent, hoping that he would become Two-Face in a later film. That role went to Tommy Lee Jones in Batman Forever, much to Williams and my disappointment.
I really wanted desperately to do, obviously, Two-Face. I was hoping that it would segue into that. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to see what I could do with it. It would have been different than Tommy Lee's. I got my own kind of madness.
Pat Hingle was cast as Commissioner Gordon, and Sean Young as Vicky Vale. With less than a week to go before filming, Young had suffered a horse riding accident and was now too injured to be in the film. After an urgent search, the role went to Kim Basinger.
Sean Young was there. She was there for 4 or 5 weeks of pre-production, and Sean wanted to go and practice her horse riding, but she fell off, and we were about a week away from shooting.
They called me, and I found myself on a plane over to London. That's actually how quick it happened.
Falling off that horse was something that just kind of, I couldn't hang on. I just couldn't hang on, and there's kind of a poetic symbolism about that. It's like, in a way, I look back at that particular time in my life, and I go, wow, I wish I'd been able to hang on to that horse. I wish I'd been able to do that, because then the turning point in my particular career, I would have been able to stay on the film. I would have been in a big box office hit. I would have been able to go on to other big box office hits. I would have, and then that kind of domino effect would have occurred in my career. So that was the turning point in my career where that didn't happen.
After nearly 8 years since Uslan began pitching his idea around the studios, the film finally began production in 1988. Originally planned to be filmed in California, media interest in the film made it nearly impossible to keep the story secretive. The decision was made to change the location to Pinewood Studios in England. To be honest, I wanted to get out of the States because of all the hype, hoopla and controversy the film was attracting. It was happening in England too, but to a far lesser degree. I didn't need any extra distractions, and coming here pretty much removed the stress level in that area so I could focus on the movie. Production sprawled across the studio's 95-acre backlot, taking up most of its 18 sound stages. Burton hired production designer Anton Furst for Batman, and it was a collaboration that proved to be inspired. I found his spirit contagious, and we do have a lot in common. We both wear black, for example. There was an instant affinity between us. I don't think I've ever felt so naturally in tune with a director, conceptually, spiritually, visually, or artistically. There was never any problem because we never fought over anything. I often wanted his advice, but when I came up with 4 ideas in 4 different directions, he'd always choose the one I liked most. Using Terry Gilliam's 1985 film Brazil for inspiration, Furst and his team deliberately clashed architectural styles for the production to make Gotham City the ugliest and bleakest metropolis imaginable. Furst's conception paid off, winning that year's Academy Award for Best Art Direction alongside Peter Young. Furst's work for Batman and Gotham has become so cemented visually that his designs are still used as inspiration today, from animation to video games. While filming, Burton's co-writer Ham could not be on set due to 1988's Writers Guild of America strike. As Burton felt some scenes needed reworking, screenwriter Rowan Scarron came on board to make some changes. Having worked with Burton on Beetlejuice, the pair made some significant changes to the script, most notably having Joker murder Bruce's parents, which I will discuss later. The climax was also changed during filming, causing the film to go well over budget. Filming was finally completed in February 1989, giving Burton 5 months for post-production to meet their June 23rd deadline.
Don't kill me, man! I'm not going to kill you. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends about me. What are you? I'm Batman.
I couldn't talk about this film without mentioning Batmania, the story of how Batman ruled the summer of '89.
This time it is to the big screen. Warner Brothers is spending millions to bring millionaire Bruce Wayne and his alter ego to life. Is this a gamble for the studio? Will Batman pay off? Will there be bat hysteria? Sherry Claypool has this Bat update.
Hoping for Batmania to strike at the hearts of all law-abiding citizens this summer.
Due to the incredible backlash and criticism against Warner Brothers and Burton for casting Keaton, the studio decided to rush the first film trailer into a Christmas release while the film was still being shot. The trailer was bare, just a rough assemblage of scenes without any music, but the plan worked. Audiences in theaters cheered.
It was such an incredible demand to see that trailer that movie theaters were being contacted to find out what time the trailers were showing, and people were paying to see movies they didn't care about just to watch the Batman trailer, and then they got up and they left the theater.
And this was just the beginning. In the months leading up to the film's release, Warner Brothers saw the potential for Batman to be the next Star Wars in terms of merchandise success. The iconic car, his numerous gadgets, his iconic logo. All of this was marketable for all ages, not just kids. Shirts, watches, models, action figures, jackets. This may seem commonplace these days, but back in the late 80s, this kind of film phenomenon was nearly unheard of.
People were buying the Batman ties, the t-shirts, the hats, the cufflinks, the underwear, everything.
I think when I saw the Batman cereal, that's when it hit me. You know, whoa.
People were getting the Bat logo shaved into their heads. Prince's pop song, specifically written for the film, rocked the radios. Not even to mention the simple yet effective textless poster for the film that was so iconic that roughly 1,200 of these posters were stolen from bus stops and train stations. The Bat symbol was just everywhere, and Warner Brothers reaped the rewards, raking in $500 million just from the merchandise. When the film was finally released in June, the film immediately began breaking records, becoming the first film to make $100 million plus in just 10 days. This massive success proved to movie studios that superhero films were incredibly popular, especially in short-term revenue. The film's merchandise and hype success became the blueprint for future superhero films.
Winged freak. Terrorizes. Wait till they get a load of me.
I had not seen this film in at least a decade before doing this video. Before pressing play, I thought I'd be revisiting my fond childhood memories of this film. Unfortunately, my nostalgia for the film was short-lived. I really wanted to love this film, but I just couldn't. There are definitely things I like, even love, but overall, I'd have to describe this film as style over substance. But let's not be so negative. Let me start with the things I like about this film. Visually, this film is incredible. I enjoy every aspect of this film's visual design. Burton and First really outdid themselves with Gotham City. The conflicting architectural styles, ranging from Art Deco to Gothic, makes Gotham feel like a fully realised, oppressive, sleazy dark maze of busy streets and tall, ominous buildings. It feels grimy and lived in. The in-depth level of detail is absolutely gorgeous to look at. There are a few standout shots in particular, like this one, and that one. This one is my favourite. Overall, pretty solid cinematography. Then we get to Batman's design, which is just as spectacular. I love the all-black suit, combined with the flowing cape, yellow belt and symbol. It looks effortlessly intimidating. Keaton had a terrible time while filming his Batman scenes, however. Due to the tight, thick latex cowl, the outfit was heavily restrictive for Keaton, who couldn't even hear. He infamously couldn't even turn his head, resulting in a now iconic bat turn. Michael is a bit claustrophobic, which made it worse for him. The costume put him in a dark, Batman-like mood though, so he was able to use it to his advantage. However, nothing comes as close to perfection as the Batmobile and Batwing. They're both fantastic and iconic for the character. Do I even really need to describe how cool that Batmobile is? Just look at it. It's easily one of my favourite interpretations of Batman's signature vehicle in live action. The same can be said for the Batwing. Designed by Julian Caldo, the decision to style the Batwing in the shape of the bat insignia was inspired, resulting in one of the best shots of the whole film. Similar to the Batmobile in its sleekness, the design oozes coolness. I also enjoyed Keaton's performance and interpretation of the character. As Bruce Wayne, he plays the character as an introvert. This goes against the traditional comic book version of the extravagant playboy. Keaton manages to bring out the strangeness of Bruce Wayne. He's quiet, socially awkward, and emotionally distant, building a calm rage within him. Burton attributed that silent rage to Keaton's eyes in the behind-the-scenes interviews.
It's like with Michael, you look at him and he's just got those eyes and he looks crazy and he looks just like, but he also doesn't look like a superhero. It's like he looks like a guy who would need to dress up like a bat for effect.
It's an exciting idea that works for this interpretation. Usually, Bruce Wayne's charismatic persona is used to throw people off the scent that he could be the Batman.
Bruce, help me out here. Huh? Well, a guy who dresses up like a bat clearly has issues.
Burton and Keaton take a different approach, using Keaton's smaller frame and his anonymous personality as a way to blend in with the crowd. His uncomfortableness as Bruce Wayne makes the character more endearing and relatable.
All right, listen. You know how a normal person gets up and goes downstairs and eats breakfast and kisses somebody goodbye and goes to a job and, you know. No.
As Batman, he's fantastic. What I enjoy most about Keaton's Batman is how the film incorporates the costume's lack of flexibility into the story. As mentioned before, the suit was incredibly restricted, meaning Keaton couldn't do any complicated physical action scenes. The film understood that and therefore incorporated Batman's unstoppable and unpredictable nature through the suit's design. Take Batman's introduction into the film as an example. He's presented as a horror figure, silently approaching two street thugs. When the thugs shoot him, Batman goes down, making the thugs believe they've killed him, only for Batman to get back up unharmed. He's not a ninja, he's instead an impenetrable tank. His use of fear comes through his unstoppable nature. I just wish there was more of it, a deeper exploration into this interpretation. Unfortunately, it never arises, and what we get instead, I'm just not a fan of, but we'll get to that. Of course, every hero needs a theme, and Danny Elfman delivers in spades. This was Elfman's first time working on production with this level of scale. Still, it doesn't show in the final product if he had any first time worries or nerves about working on the project. The main theme is simplistic yet very effective and incredible. Having seen the film for the first time in a long time, I've forgotten just how addictive the theme is. I've caught myself randomly humming the tune while doing everyday tasks. The theme suits the gothic imagery of the film. It's dark, mysterious, loud and in your face. The eerie strings juxtaposed with the impactful percussion and brass results in an iconic Batman theme, standing alongside a pretty iconic list. Saving the best positive for last, you can't talk about this film without talking about Jack Nicholson's Joker. It was a perfect casting choice at the time.
Honey, you'll never believe what happened to me today.
He steals the show, both for the film's betterment and detriment. Just like the rest of the film, visually he's spot on. His bright purple suit, bleached skin, and sinister smile really stand out from Gotham's black, metallic gothic architecture. I've always preferred Joker with bleached skin over the realistic painted-on look, and I think this film was the reason why. Then we get to Nicholson's performance, and it's brilliant.
Bob? Gun. Going to need a minute or two alone, boys.
He's chewing the scenery and loving every minute of it. His performance is infectious. He's dark, wacky and psychotic. Exactly what Joker needs to be. Before he becomes the Joker, the decision to introduce him as a mob enforcer was great, showing that falling into the acid only heightened his sinister personality.
You look fine.
I didn't ask.
My only real gripe with the Joker in this film is ironic. There's just too much of him. I understand why they did it. When you've got an A-list celebrity in the role giving an incredible performance, when in those days not many A-listers would go near a superhero film, you show him off as much as possible. Unfortunately, it takes away from Batman. You know, the whole point of the film. In hindsight, I would have liked more exploration of Bruce Wayne's character than Joker's. This leads us to my gripes and negatives for the film, which stem mostly from the story. The film's main plot is very simplistic and highly forgettable, and honestly fades away by the conclusion. The issues with the story wouldn't be so bad if the characters and what they represent were explored more profoundly in the film, but they never are. Due to Burton's slight misunderstanding of the characters, the film's portrayal of Batman and Joker feel very surface level. Batman and Joker are famously two sides of the same coin. This is a prevalent theme explored in nearly every Batman and Joker story. It's what makes their dynamic so exciting and fun to watch, read and play. This film has a basic understanding of this. There are a few subtle hints that I overlooked until a revisit, such as this brief bit of dialogue.
This is a nice apartment. Lots of space.
Nice place you got here. Lots of space.
But ultimately, I feel Burton and the writers explore this idea in the wrong way. Let's take Batman's origins as an example. Traditionally in the comics, Thomas and Martha Wayne are shot in an alley by Joe Chill, a common, everyday street criminal. This leads to Bruce Wayne eventually becoming Batman. Sorry for the spoilers. What makes his origin work for me is Joe Chill. He's not meant to be anybody significant. He's not a criminal mastermind or a crazed lunatic. He's a common street thug, representing Gotham's struggles. The people in the city are desperate for survival, causing them to do whatever they can to survive. This gives Bruce a noble goal to become Batman, to eradicate crime in Gotham, to make the city a better place. Now, not every adaptation of the Wayne murders is precisely like this. I enjoy some other interpretations of the event and how it affects Bruce's quest. Telltale's Batman series is a prime example of how you can turn that event on its head and still make it work. But having the Joker responsible for the Wayne murders, I believe, takes the concept of Batman and Joker's intertwinement in the wrong direction. Joker murdering the Waynes in this film has never sat right for me. It twists their relationship from two opposing forces naturally colliding against the other into a personal vendetta against one another. It's no longer a battle between saving and ruining Gotham. They're no longer two sides of the same coin. One wants to turn everyone into a twisted version of himself. The other wants to brutally kill for the sake of revenge. That's not Batman. Leading into the film's final act, Bruce realizes through flashbacks that Jack Napier is Joker. I will say why I don't like this scene thematically. The actor they got for a young Jack Napier is bloody spot on. I've never seen him in anything else, and he's only in it for seconds, but whoever this actor is, he did a better job than Jared Leto.
I don't want no beef. You want no beef?
You don't want no beef? You don't want no beef?
Anyway, this changes Bruce's character for the worst. While I praise Keaton's performance and the visual design, Bruce Wayne's decisions in this movie make him a terrible Batman. Once he realizes who the Joker is, he becomes a killer. He's now hell-bent on killing the Joker, killing anyone in his way. He's no longer a dark crusader for justice. He's the Punisher with fancier gadgets. Batman, I believe, should never be about revenge. That fine line he walks between the vengeful guardian of Gotham and the brutal killer is what makes him interesting. Once he crosses that, his characterization is lost. No letter read by Commissioner Gordon can change that.
It can be truly said that I have a bat in my belfry.
1989's Batman changed the superhero genre in cinema forever. Without it, there'd be no X-Men, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, or even the MCU. The film worldwide made $411 million, just under $1 billion in today's money. That's not to mention the incredible success of the merchandising. The film even won an Academy Award for the Best Visual Design. Nicholson received numerous nominations for his performance. The film proved to industry leaders and the film companies that superhero films can be taken seriously in Hollywood, while also being a commercial success. As for the film itself, while it may not be the definitive Batman film, its outstanding visual design and performance by Nicholson and Keaton heavily impacted Batman going forward, leaving the film with one astonishing legacy.